Good morning, good afternoon, and or good evening, wherever you're receiving this audio. Welcome back to yet another episode of the Busted Coverage Podcast, exclusively on YouTube as well as Spotify. Before we get started, we just want to say thank you guys for tuning in. I'm your host, Nicholas Persampieri, joined always by my partners in crime, Matt Baywood, and the return of Cam Griffin this week. I told you guys he'd be back this week.
Yes,
So Keith's
yes.
in the building, Matt's in the building, and of course, I'm in the building. I'm also moderating this week, so so I'll be going over the topics. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Spotify. If you ever bored at work, put us on. You know, we give you guys good content. Also, leave a comment. We love to answer your guys' questions. Give us some things to talk about. We'll talk about anything really. If it's sports related, we're on it. Anywho, Uh, we're going to get into this episode here. We got a lot to talk about among the sports world. First thing we're going to talk about is we're going to recap the past week in the NBA and NHL playoffs. We're getting into the conference finals, so we're going to preview both of those respectively. Then we got the NFL schedule that just came out. We're going to go over our favorite teams, go over some of the week one matchups, what we think are some important games right out of the gate. Then we're going to hit the hardwood again, but for the ladies this time, as the WNBA season tipped off this weekend. Going to go over some of the Caitlin Clark effect theory floating around, see if that's still a thing. And then lastly, we're going to get into a debate over if leagues should remove turf fields in favor of grass. So we got a lot to talk about. We're just going to get right into it, recapping some of the stuff on the hardwood and on the ice. As some of you guys probably saw, OKC throttled the Denver Nuggets today. And so they are going to be hosting the Western Conference Finals against the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Ant-Man, Ann Edwards, with a trip to the NBA Finals on the line. And in the Eastern Conference, we got the New York Knicks. Go New York, go New York, go. And they're going to be taking on the Indiana Pacers. So I'm going to start with Cam. What did you think of this week for the second round of the NBA? And give us a little taste, a preview of what you think might happen in these conference finals matchups.
Well, I think first of all, it was an outstanding week of playoff basketball. I think that's the way to start it. I think obviously not Warriors, good God. Well, yeah, the Warriors ended their season. Unfortunately, Steph got hurt. Injuries seem to be the theme. Minus injuries, it was great basketball all around. I think that we're going to get a huge matchup in the finals in the sense of we're going to have a star win for the first time. And it's been a long time since we've said that. So someone's about to validate their legacy, whether it's Jaylen Brown, Tyrese Halliburton, Edwards, or SGA. Someone new is going to win, but someone's about to validate their legacy. But before we even get there, Denver series, outstanding. Um, Denver won 2 years ago, brought back basically, lost a lot of key players. Some of their players grew up, and they were able to get almost back to the finals again. If we've learned anything, Jokic is a beast. I mean, you can't not like this dude. He is phenomenal. The only way they were going to win that series is if he was phenomenal. And for 6 out of 7 games, I thought he played amazing. Today's game, they had it until maybe about 6 minutes, Nick, you say, left in the second quarter. And then it just went downhill from there. A lot of stuff that, we'll talk about this offseason and with the Nuggets. I don't think their coach was ready for the moment. I think there were a lot of moments where he cost them the game by not challenging or not using a timeout. Nick, you've made comments that Jokic is basically coaching. But that stuff aside, to go 7 games for those two teams just brought a great series. It would have been nice if the Timberwolves and Warriors could have gone, 7 games. We could have seen Steph versus Ant-Man for 7 games. Sadly, we didn't get that. And if I remember correctly, I don't think the games were really close once Steph went down. But Edwards is the truth. We have not seen a star who is outspoken as him and takes it all on his shoulder as willingly as he does. And I think it's phenomenal. Definitely my favorite player left in this postseason, but I'm trying not to go there. I know I'm going to let you take the New York matchup. I know you're a little happy about that, so I'll stay away from that and I'll stay in the West. But it's been great basketball, and this playoffs, we've seen a lot of players step up. We've seen some players fold, sadly. So I'm excited. It's been a great week of basketball. I'll throw it back to you for real quick and let Matt go on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll go to Matt. I will pass to the pop. Pass it on to Matt. Your take on the West, and if you want to transition it to the East as well. Floor is yours. So
Sure.
take your take on it.
Yeah, I wasn't as thrilled with. I mean, I think we all predicted that the Thunder Nuggets series was going to go to 7 somehow. Uh, I thought the finish to the game or the finish to the series was a little underwhelming, just because of the way that they lost Game 7 after they played so well in game to push it to a Game 7. Then Steph going down kind of ruined the Minnesota series. They hung in a couple of games and then they just didn't have enough. Jimmy wasn't aggressive. There isn't much to say about that, but Nick, props to you. I believe you picked this matchup going into the Western Conference Finals, OKC versus Timberwolves, or some variation of that. I know you were big on the Timberwolves to enter the postseason, so props to you on that. I was more surprised at the Eastern Conference and the way that, in the fashion that the 1 and 2 seeds, Cavaliers and Celtics, went. Nick, I think both of you thought that the Cavs could be taken down just due to the fact that Hunter wasn't playing so well throughout the playoffs, and there were some teams that were dark horses, and it seems like both of them are in the Eastern Conference Finals now. It's a nice rematch from last year. So the Knicks, I predicted that the series would go 6, but not that order. I didn't expect that the Knicks were going to destroy the Celtics like that. And whether anybody wants to admit it or not, they won. They were going to go up 3-1, whether Tatum got hurt or not. That game was over. But it was a great series. Knicks showed their heart, showed what showing up in the postseason means, whether if you were underrated or overrated or not performing well in the during the season, how you could just turn it around in the postseason. It's really what matters as long as you get there. So I'm very impressed with the Pacers and Knicks. Congratulations to both those teams, and I'm very excited for a healthy matchup between the two.
Yeah, I'll just take my 2 cents really quick here. I agree. I'm very excited to see this Indiana Knicks series. Um, Last year, they met in the second round with the Pacers winning in 7 games, but they put a belt to ass on the Knicks in Game 7. The Pacers have been to the conference finals now for the second straight year. Um, and the Knicks I think this is the first time since 2000 that they've made the conference finals. So this is, a long, long time coming. And just for perspective, I was 5 years old the last time the Knicks were in the Eastern Conference Finals. This is 25 years in the making. And I believe in this team. I believe in Jalen Brunson. I believe in OG Anunoby. Got to say it like it because he's British. Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges. I can't believe we gave up 5 first-round picks, but man, he has been clutch this postseason, and something's going on. The stars are aligning. I'm not going to say this is the year, but they're giving me that feeling again. I believe in the Knicks. That's all I'm going to say. And then in the West, I did pick Minnesota to win the West. I'm doubling down on that. I think the Ant-Man cometh, and he's coming for SGA. He's next on the list. He's filling up the gauntlet thing that like Thanos in the Avengers movies. SGA's next. But hopefully he won't get the chance to snap his fingers or whatever. So, but yeah, I think I think this playoff have been great. I don't know if you guys would agree. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give it an 8 so far. But we'll see what happens with these conference finals. They start, I believe, Monday is the West finals first. Monday night.
Is it Monday?
And then, is it Monday? I believe it's Monday night for.
Yeah, the Eastern doesn't start until Tuesday.
Or no, I'm sorry, it's not Monday. It's Tuesday night. Sorry.
Yeah. I
The,
thought the East started Wednesday, and I didn't think it was a 2-day break.
that is correct. So the West is Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then the Knicks play Wednesday. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
You're
correct.
right. You're right.
That's correct. Okay. So yeah, mark your calendars, guys. Tuesday night, conference finals begin in the NBA. Speaking of conference finals, we also got another set of conference finals to talk about on the ice this time. We have set in stone official Edmonton and Dallas in the West, Dallas Stars and the Edmonton Oilers, and the Carolina Hurricanes are waiting for the winner of the game that's happening live right now. The Florida Panthers and Toronto Maple Leafs are scoreless at the end of the first period. For this segment, I will start with Matt, who is our ice connoisseur. What did you think of the second round matchups and seeing how this has played out? Give us a little preview of what you think might happen for the conference finals and or the game tonight, since there's one live.
Just to toot my own horn here, I'm 7 for 7 for hockey picks this postseason. So that's great return. Anyway, we said, or I said, that
You
the
got to hit
series
that
was going to go
soundboard,
7.
man.
Yeah, I got to pull it out real quick. Hold on. I got like multiple mouses in front of me. There's mice. Where's the soundboard at? Here it is. All right, 7 for 7.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, the Panthers Maple Leafs, I want, just because Florida won last year, I want the Maple Leafs to take Florida just because they're a tortured fan base just like the Knicks. Not to say anything bad, but it's just been a long time. And Dallas is genuinely surprising me with the resilience because they looked like they were down and out last series. They went down 2 goals and came back and won. So I think the both conference finals are going to be phenomenal matchups. Carolina, any talks about Carolina relocating back to Connecticut isn't going to happen. Let's see what's going on here. So the Stars and Oilers are set to play on May 21st at 8 p.m. Edmonton does have the better team. I think they should be the favorite to repeat in the Stanley Cup Finals. We might end up seeing a rematch, Nick. We really might. It really depends on if Florida makes it to the conference finals, I think they go to the Stanley Cup. If Toronto makes it to the conference finals, I think that's another 7-game series. And in the Oilers series coming up, I think Rantanen's going to make the difference. He's been huge in these playoffs. Cam, you got anything to say about it?
Yeah, I believe I picked the Hurricane or the Hurricanes. So again, my NHL knowledge is not the best, but I believe I did pick a team that is going pretty far. So I'm happy about that. I actually did watch the game. Nick, were we at Maggie's for that game? I feel like that was Thursday, right? Was I with you Thursday?
I believe that might have been the Winnipeg game.
Okay.
that we watched.
I don't remember. It was somebody. I thought well then cool. I watched 2 games that week. No. Hey, look, I'm trying. No, but you know what? I remember coming into it. There's a lot of talk about Alto Veskin and the Capitals. Their scoring prowess. I know we saw for the first few games that they played, putting up quite a few goals. So I was intrigued with what I was hoping to see because, as we all know, I don't watch a lot of hockey, but I do like when they do score a lot of goals. So I think theory is, or talk around town in general, is that there's just not a lot of scoring. So it's kind of hard to watch sometimes. So I know rules have been changed to try and increase that. So with the rule change, I'm watching a little more, but I'm glad that the team I did pick did make it, and I did watch it, and it was entertaining. So
I'm gonna jump.
I will be.
I'm gonna jump into this just real quick, just because I have to address that.
Please
Hockey
do.
versus soccer is night and day, whether there's high scoring or not.
Oh, facts.
There's so much more to watch. You got hits, checks, there's a lot of stoppages when the goalie covers the puck. There's icing, offsides, delay a game. But overall, I mean, what sport can you watch other than soccer? That maybe baseball, but even they have commercial breaks where you can just watch 15 minutes of a quarter with no commercials. And you get to see movement on the ice. I mean, it's just amazing how quickly they can get up and down, and you got a goalie covering like 87% of the goal and still being able to fit, get him in a bad position so that you can score a goal. It's just unbelievable. In soccer, I really don't understand how uh the games aren't higher scoring. That's just uh a question that I have. But the Oilers made quick business of the Golden Knights. I think they finished that series in 5. I don't know if there's going to be any rest delays here. I'm leaning towards taking Dallas in the game 1 upset, but that'll be determined later in the show.
I think that's
Also,
a good point. I think that's a real quick good point, just to say that, you know, we were watching it in hockey and soccer. You do have very few timeouts, or stoppage in plays, I should say, to where there is a commercial break. One of my biggest beefs with football and baseball to that extent is there's way too many commercials. I understand that they're sponsoring and they're paying for time, but it's hard to watch a sport where something good happens and you get zoned in and then you cut to a commercial break. Um, so I do appreciate that with hockey, and you're right, soccer is not very high scoring. Having played for years, it's been like that. But I appreciate the nonstop footage of being able to see these athletes compete and do what they need to do, um, without the stoppage in play. It's actually very exciting, entertaining, and time does go by quickly. And you're right, hockey. I always wonder how they score the goal, where it seems like the goalie's in all this padding and the puck finds a way into the net. So no, you're right. And again, I don't know a ton about hockey, people, so I'm trying to keep it very vague because I don't want anyone putting messages out there saying I don't know what I'm talking about. But it is entertaining. I will say that, and I did pick the Hurricanes. So let's go.
I think we should get
I was going
Cam
to say, a little
into
bit
the.
more.
Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, a little bit more than some people because you did pick Carolina and they're in the conference finals. So
And I also think that we need
that's
to
Well,
what
get
happened.
him. We need to get him involved from the start of the NHL season next year, so that he could, maybe if he's not a Carolina fan, which I think he will because he's from Connecticut and they're from Connecticut. Let's not get this confused here. And
well,
get it.
well, to take it
Yeah.
out there, I did listen to 2 very good people with hockey experience to make my pick. So everybody, if I don't know hockey and I listen to them and I pick the right team, when you make your bets, you might want to pay attention. There's my plug for the 2 of you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Also, by the way, real quick, shameless plug for myself. I did put in a futures bet. I think I may have said it on record. I had Toronto and Edmonton to meet in the cup. That bet is still alive, technically. Toronto's got 2 periods to keep it alive. So go Maple Leafs.
Yeah, live
And
update 0-0. End of the first.
yeah, end of the first. Yep. And I did pick Edmonton to go all the way, and I'm sticking with it. Connor McDavid, baby.
Yeah,
That's all I'm going to say.
there's no reason to think otherwise. I mean, I thought they were due last year, especially when they.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what were they down? It was 3-1 or 3-0. I think it was 3-0, and they came back to tie it to 3-3.
I think it might have been 3-1. You know what? You know what? Let's just confirm. Let us confirm. See, we don't like being wrong on the Busted Coverage podcast.
2024 Stanley Cup Finals record.
No, you're right. It was 3-0.
Yeah,
It was 3-0. Then Edmonton won 4-5. They scored eight in game 4, 5 in game 5, 5 in game 6, and then lost game 7 2-1.
yeah.
That's heartbreaking.
So, like, if it was 3-1, they would have won the series, but obviously it wasn't that. But the fact that they were
Mhm.
able to extend it to a game 7 was just crazy. I thought that Florida just wanted to win it on their home ice, and they, let Edmonton get that so they can gentleman sweep them, but they just showed immense heart and they just came back. It was actually frightening to watch because I had my money from preseason on Florida. So my heart was racing after they tied that series last year.
Well, in any which case, I think, again, same thing in the NBA. I think the NHL playoffs have been pretty good. If I gave the NBA 8, I'd probably give the NHL playoffs a 7. I think it's been solid. We've seen some high scoring games, but we've also seen some blowouts. So we're getting a little. We've also seen some really low scoring games too. If we get some more high scoring games, I think that will probably push it up from the excitement factor. But I think this week we're going to see some exciting stuff
So
start with these conference finals games. So
just one more
I'm
thing,
excited.
just to address
Yep.
this scoring piece. I think that a high scoring hockey game actually takes away from the game. Uh, th- the reason
Mm.
being is because you sit at the edge of your seat and wait for that goal to go through, especially if you're peppering shots at a goalie that's just like unstoppable for that night. Like he's just on, he's saving everything, making miraculous dives, slides, catches. It's the puck is ringing off the pipe. Like you're on the edge of your seat when it comes to the end of the game, and it's still 0-0, 1-1 going into overtime, and you need to get that last goal in. If you start seeing a high scoring game, it's going to be less appealing in my opinion. But obviously that's just me. I don't know what you guys have to weigh in on that.
Well, I think maybe I said the wrong word for it, but I think it depends what you would be considering high scoring. I mean, in general, I don't think hockey gets up to double digits unless the team's just awful. Um, I'm fine with 3 goals scored. To be honest, I think 3 to me was entertaining to watch. I think I was telling Nick this week that hockey to me is the weirdest thing when you're watching because the high highs and low lows happen so frequently, and that would be you're on the edge of your seat because we were watching a game and it's a breakaway and we're really excited and my adrenaline's through the roof and then the defender comes from behind and blocks it. I'm like, oh, well that was a valley. I just dipped really quickly, and then you're up again. So with the highs and the valleys, I'm okay with 3 goals. One is a little struggle for me to watch. I appreciate all the attempts on the goal.
Well, yeah, as long
I
as
don't
there's
think.
attempts on the goal, like if
Yeah,
they're just skating
I
around
don't.
with the puck and it's a 16 shot game by the third
Yeah,
period, I'm gonna be bored. But if they're
yeah,
yeah,
and I think that's where I am on that. As long as there are attempts. But then again, there are some attempts where, like Nick and I are watching, and I felt the other person should have taken the shot. And since he didn't shoot it, the whole play kind of died. And then the defense was back in position. And it's like, okay, well, now we got to re-hope to get that moment again. But
well, that
no,
happens in our rec league basketball games too.
Yeah, don't even get me started. We're not going to bring any rec league athletics into this. That's a whole nother show one day. But that's where I am on that. I think I like 3-0, 3-2, 3-1. Hey, if it goes over 3-4, okay. But if it goes to 5, I need to see why it went to 5. But no, I agree. I agree with you. But I just want to be a little more specific on high scoring, not crazy high scoring. Just the attempts are there, and they're actually making them. So maybe a 3 or a 4 at the max, at least for me.
Well, I'll tell you what. In any case, whether your overs hit or your unders hit, the games are going to be exciting no matter what because they're going to mean that much more because we're getting closer and closer to the finals. So, in any which case, we're here for it. So, stay tuned in for those conference finals starting Tuesday in the NBA and Wednesday in the NHL. With that in mind, though, we're going to go ahead and get into our next topic. Because we love our hardwood and we love the ice, but I think the three of us can agree we love the gridiron the most. With that in mind, I don't know if you guys all saw, if you guys are listening, Wednesday, the NFL dropped the regular season schedule. It is official. It is out and about. We're going to go ahead and go over our favorite teams, how we think the schedule looks, and what we expect from our respective squads in 2025. And then we're also going to talk about some pivotal matchups in week 1. Mr. Griffin, I'm going to start with you on this one. You are our resident Pats fan. Last year,
Yes.
drafted Drake May. Looked good.
Mm-hmm.
It's year 2 now. Got some pieces. New coach, Mike Vrabel, has come home to Foxborough. What do you think about how your schedule looks? And what are your expectations for this team in 2025?
Make sure I'm not muted here. No, I'm not. That's a good question. I think I was going to say rookie quarterback, but he's not a rookie quarterback. With our new quarterback, I think the expectations have to be, pretty decent, pretty substantial. I think playoffs. I think there's a lot of teams who have giant question marks, and I don't see why we wouldn't be able to take advantage of some of those situations. I'm looking at our schedule right away, and to get the Raiders game 1, well, the Raiders I think could be a sleeping team this year to an extent. Do I think they're going to be great? No, but do I think they're going to be a team that finds a way to beat people with Geno Smith, Brock Bowers? I do think Ashton Genty will be very good on that team, despite what a lot of people are coming out saying. I do believe that. And then we have the Dolphins, who I've never been a Tua fan, and who knows what that team is going to look like still. There's a lot of, I'm surprised that they kept it together as much as they did, because there's been a lot of talk about moving players, and I don't think people believe in the Dolphins right now anymore. And to get some of these teams to be, what? Oh no, you're good.
Sorry, the mic on my audio on here was muted. I think Tyreek Hill requested a trade. I don't know if that report is valid though.
Yeah, and to me, he's requesting it. There's a reason why. And if you look at our schedule, sorry, Matt, I'm just going to say it. We don't know what's going on with the Steelers right now on their quarterback situation.
I do.
So, what?
I do.
Oh, are you talking about it?
I might. I'm just saying. It's quick. The Steelers play the Jets week 1. I believe that means Aaron Rodgers is going to be there.
Okay, so breaking news from Matt Baywoods: Steelers are signing Aaron Rodgers. Well, if they take Aaron Rodgers, I think that completely changes the way our first 3 games could go. But not that we would beat the Steelers on a regular basis, but I think that week 3, if we're going to beat them, that would be the best shot for us to beat them. I don't see us beating them out towards the end of the season. So I'm very happy getting them week 3. But I don't see why, let's say the first 4 games, we can't go 3-1 with that loss maybe to the Steelers. We have a pretty favorable schedule. Again, a lot of non-quarterback teams on our schedule some way, somehow. Between the Browns, the Titans, the Saints, and the Titans do have Cam Warren. I get that, but he's still a rookie. The Jets, the Giants. It kind of broke out. So I like our schedule. I think we're going to be a double-digit win team this year. I'm not going to say we're back. I think we just got a favorable schedule. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good year for us. And that's my New England 2 cents. And I think a game I'm looking forward to seeing, to be honest with you, is I want to see the game on December 14th when we actually, you know what? It's the back-to-back games. We host the Bills and then we go to the Ravens. And I think that will tell me a lot about our coach and a lot about our team going forward. To get the Bills later in the season when I know they're going to be playing for something. And the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, always MVP candidate. Those will be 2 games back-to-back that I'm excited to be able to see. I mean, it's preceded by the Giants and postseeded by the Jets, but those 2 games are going to be fun if you're a Pats fan. One at home, one on the road, just to see how far our team has come and how the growth, if there's any growth, we'll find out in those games.
Well, I appreciate you being conservative when you're talking about the Patriots versus the Steelers, but I have to say that there's no team that owns another franchise more than the Patriots own the Steelers over the last 20 years.
Look, I'm not putting any bad juju on this right now because I like where our team is. So I'm not saying anything negative because I don't want to. Look, I said negative stuff about the Knicks for the last full year and a half. Now it's all biting me in the butt. I'm not trying to get on football too, and the next thing you know, I have to go through a whole year of this.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna.
yeah. So all I'm saying is that I went to watch Mac Jones versus Mitch Trubisky in the anticipation that Kenny Pickett at the time was going to go in. That didn't happen. Mitch Trubisky couldn't even move the ball at all. He threw the ball away, and then our defense got mossed because we were on the field 99% of the game. Next year, it ends up being like a primetime game. I think it was Thursday night. I was about to go again. And guess who was going to be? It was Kenny Pickett was just got hurt the week before. Guess who was going to be the quarterback again? Mitch Trubisky, and we lost that game again. It's just unbelievable. You can never count that matchup. I don't know if it was just a Belichick thing, but at least last year we got a year off of that loss. But I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch. But I don't know. I don't know if that's like Mike Tomlin's kryptonite is just the Patriots in the
Again,
regular season. That is.
I'm gonna stick with the good juju right now and say it'll be a toss up. I have my deep
Oh,
down inner thoughts of how I want it to go and how I feel it will go, but and for me, I know Matt said Aaron Rodgers most likely going to be the quarterback. Until I know who your quarterback is going to be, I have to put an asterisk next to it because I don't. I do like your team. I do like your team. I think your team is very good. I just don't think you have a quarterback at this moment. I'm not sure who it is, but I think Aaron Rodgers will change the trajectory of your team. If it's not Aaron Rodgers, we're gonna have some question marks. But no, I appreciate it, and yeah, we've built a ass the last few years on you guys, but today on this date, I am going to restrict the game because I don't want to say something, and all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers signs and looks like he never tore an Achilles ever in his life and gets an MVP. So you know what? Because he's throwing to what's his name now? If he does join the team, it's
DK.
DK. So you give a good quarterback a great receiver, and a lot of things change, and a lot of people look younger. So we'll see what happens. Nick, do you want our game of the week, our game 2, or the game we're looking forward to, or just that for right now?
Just that for now. We'll get into the week 1 matchups in a little bit. It's interesting you guys mentioned that New England and Pittsburgh are playing each other this year in week 3.
I'm going to the game.
Wow. You better picks or it didn't happen. All right. You better post some pics to the channel. All right, man. When you're there, it's in Foxborough, right?
Yeah, easy drive.
Yeah, true. Perfect, man. Well, speaking of which, Cam gave us his opinion on how the season outlook will go. He's predicting double-digit wins and wild card. Is that correct? Going to the playoffs?
Yeah, I'll go wild card.
Bold
I'm
take?
not stupid. I think the Bills still have it, but I'll go double digit wins
Okay.
and wild card.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Perfect. All right, man. All right, now, Mr. Baywood, it is your turn. You are the resident Steeler fan, as you have made it known multiple times here on the Busted Coverage podcast. There's been some up and downs for you guys this offseason. You guys did not win the Shador Sanders sweepstakes, so
Thank
congratulations.
God. Oh, that was a nail biter.
With that in mind, with that in mind, floor is yours. Take us through how you think the schedule looks for Pittsburgh and where you see this team come the new year when it's all said and done.
Just for the record, I had a 102 fever. These guys called me at like 11 something o'clock as I was like fighting off demons. And I'm like one eye open, half asleep, watching the Steelers overall pick. They made sure I wasn't missing it. And they wanted to hear my reaction if Shador Sanders was drafted or Jackson Dart for that matter. But uh, I had like zero reaction to the first round at all. So I was like, huh? And then the rest of the draft was just anticipation. I'm like, okay, so they got to take Shador now. They got to take Shador now. Then they didn't. They took Will Howard, which I'm very happy with. That being said, being the fact that I think that Aaron Rodgers is unfortunately going to be a Steelers quarterback, I just think that holding out this long is just too much. I don't think that's the Steelers' way. But that being said, I think they will win against the Jets week 1. I think they will win against the Seahawks week 2. I think Aaron will make it a point to end that little drought against the Patriots, and then I think week 4 we lose to the Vikings. So I'm excited about the schedule overall. I mean, you have to play a tough division, 6 games out of the year, but other than that, you get the Packers, Colts, Chargers. Chargers that's one of those teams that the Steelers kind of own. Um, the Bears, I'm not sold on Caleb Williams, and the Bills, we'll see what kind of restructuring they're able to do. I know Josh Allen got a massive contract and they lost Amari Cooper, so we'll see what their offseason went to. We also play the Dolphins again, so that'll be an easy W. And they got a tough Lions matchup too, which we'll see if their team can come back healthy. So we really don't know what's up in store. I think the Steelers can easily win 10 games, but Mike Tomlin will find a way to lose an easy one here or there, which is where I'm giving the 7-game losses from. They should win 11, but I'll be conservative and say 10.
Okay, look at that. 2 double-digit teams. Do you think you guys make the playoffs? Yay, nay, miss out, wild card?
Typically, I mean, that really probably a wild card, only because I expect a fully healthy year from Joe Burrow. Uh, the Ravens will probably, I feel like the Bengals will win the division, and the Ravens and the Steelers will be in the wild card.
That's
All right,
interesting.
all right, all right.
Very interesting. I like your take on
Well,
it though.
like to take. All right, so I guess it's
Real
my
quick,
turn. Huh?
I will say, Nick, before you jump in, I think that
Sure.
would be a very interesting topic. Matt, maybe your next day as the Steelers fan to go over that division, because every the top 3 teams in that division, it's either all or nothing. It seems with that division every year, and we watched Joe Burrow last year have a terrible start to the season and then be possibly an MVP candidate at the end of the season. They just didn't lose. So you could see the potential with no defense. The offense was just phenomenal. And then we watched the Steelers team where dueling quarterbacks who play 2 different ways really carried the team. At one point, we're like, yo, you need to run. And then one quarterback's in, then you need to do it. Another quarterback is in. And I just feel, and then there's Lamar and Derrick Henry. We need to devote a good chunk of time to look into that division and talk about it at one point, because there are three really good teams who, if they were in three separate divisions, probably be making the playoffs every year. So all three consistently double-digit wins. I think that would be an interesting topic to talk about. But the reason I want to say they're handicapped a lot is because they do play each other. So that's my 2 cents. Continue.
I think
All
that's for
right.
you, Nick.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Go ahead.
yeah, sorry, I was on mute. My apologies, everyone. So now it's the time we've all been waiting for to talk about the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, baby. Go Birds. Now, before I get into this, I want to preface what I'm about to say. I still believe that Philadelphia will be very good this season. However, I just looked at the schedule briefly. We have 10 of our 17 games are against playoff teams from last season. 10. So there's the possibility of a Super Bowl hangover, because I think we got a pretty tough schedule. Looking through here, we got Kansas City, the Rams, the Bucks, the Broncos, the Vikings, the Packers, the Lions, the Bills, and Washington twice. Not to mention and the Chargers. That's 11. 11 of our games are against playoff teams from last season, which is insane. So definitely going to be some tougher sledding this year. I don't think the defense will be as prolific as it was a season ago. I still think they'll be good, very solid. And I love the Jihad Campbell pick. But running through this, I think we start off the season strong. You know, probably run into a little bit of headwinds in the middle slate. We got to go to Minnesota. We go to Green Bay. At the Chargers will be an interesting one. And then our last three games at Washington, at Buffalo, Washington. So it doesn't get any easier from there. So I do still think Philadelphia should make the playoffs. I don't really see why they wouldn't make the playoffs. Will they win this division? I don't know. I think it's a toss up between us and Washington. I think that's the new rivalry in this division. I think Dallas will have a better year, but I still think they're missing a ton of pieces. You know, I still think their offensive line's still a little flawed, and the Giants are the Giants. They'll find a way. So with that in mind, I think we probably could. I think we peak at around 12 wins, and that's if things all align. I just think we got a really tough schedule. I don't know about a repeat. We'll see, but yeah, I think all three of our teams are going to have good years. I expect. I mean, you could make a case that all three of our teams will be playing in January in the playoffs this year. So we shall see. But yeah, that's my take on the Birds. Go Birds, but it's going to be some tough flying this year. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. Anywho, I know we're talking about January already. We haven't even got to week 1 yet. The week 1 slate is out, and we're going to transition this into we saw the games. We're going to talk about what we feel are the best games to watch. So if you guys are tuning in right after Labor Day weekend, the season's going to get kicked off. I'm going to start with Matt on this one. Of the week 1 slate, which game do you think will be either the best and or most important to watch if you were to pick one?
I got one from the NFC and one from the AFC. Sorry, I forgot the division names for a second. That was embarrassing. Ravens,
Sure.
Bills. just because that's a matchup that we want to see a rematch of. It really will determine who sets the tone and who is still at the top of their game. I know it's early in the season, you have time to work kinks out, but it's it's just a matchup that we would probably want to see in December, but being the fact that it's so early, I think that could end up being like a tie-breaking scenario between those two teams later in the season. And number two would be the Cowboys Eagles game, just because Jerry thinks that he made a splash this year, and it would just be great to see the Eagles come and kick their ass. By splash, I mean George Pickens. So we'll see. Cooper DeJean, he'll shut that matchup down. I don't genuinely I don't think that George Pickens can run a route and get enough separation. Yeah, he's good for the deep balls, one or two a game, but I don't think he's that big of a difference maker. We'll see though when he's a dedicated number two.
All right. Pretty bold, Mr. Cam. We'll pass it on over to you. Of these week one games that are coming up, about first weekend in September, which one do you have your eye on the most?
Well, Matt brought up a good point. A lot of these are matchups that we want to see later in the season. But I think when the schedule dropped, I was talking to you. The one game I'm excited to see right now is Cowboys Eagles. Matt's right. These teams don't have a lot of reps together, but this is the healthiest that we'll see both these teams, barring any training camp or preseason game injuries. One of the knocks that we've heard about the Cowboys is, oh, so and so was healthy, we would have won the game. Oh, we didn't have Dak, he wasn't there. Well, guess what? It's week one. You're at the defending champion's place. Let's see how good you really are. If there's going to be a time to catch any team off guard, it'll be week one. So I'm looking at all these opening games, and yeah, they're conference games, some of them, but this is when you get that win you may have thought you weren't going to get on the season because teams just don't have the chemistry there. Is it going to be the best football we see all year? No. Is it going to be the worst? Probably not. But for the most part, everybody will be healthy. So health, for example, for once, will not be an excuse for some of these teams when they play another team. It won't be wear and tear on the season. It's week one. Not all the good players will even play in the preseason. So I'm excited to see two healthy teams go at it week one. And I was looking at the other game, which I was going to say was actually going to be the Bills Ravens, basically for the same reason. But I'm going to deviate a little bit, and I'm going to go here for a game I'm looking forward to seeing is the Bengals versus the Browns. Always want to see what defensive scheme you're going to throw up to try and stop teams because the offense for the Bengals is so good. But on this note, I want to see who's going to be the Browns quarterback. We don't know. Reports say Dylan Gabriel not looking that good. Shador looking decent, but not on all his throws, but on some of his throws. So it'll be very interesting to see who they trot out there week one. I personally think it will be Shador. So I'm excited to see how he will be able to handle the NFL team. Now, it does help out that the Bengals don't have a good defense that we know of right now. It's week one. We'll see. But I think in the sense of him playing in the NFL opening night week one, let's see if he can make those reads and those checks, those check down passes and hit the receivers. Because I personally don't feel he was that good at it in college. But no Travis Hunter. Let's find out if he's worth the money that they spent for him and the draft picks. So that's my other week one game. And, just to throw it out there, I'm excited to see what the Detroit Lions team looks like this year. So many pieces on defense lost last year, still finding ways to win games, but now they have a completely healthy team going into at least week one and week two. I think they'll get all their players back by week two. It'll be entertaining to see how good they are this year. So those are my week one games to look at. I'm excited for it. It'll be a fun season this year.
All I gotta
Great
say
start.
is that you are proving that the NFL disrespected Shador Sanders if you think that he got drafted after Dylan Gabriel and he's going to start the season.
Well, You know what? At the end of the day, we looked at it as he got disrespected. But you know what? You still have to go out and pick. Where you're picked, is a huge clout thing because Brock Purdy, Tom Brady, players throughout the year have shown us it doesn't matter where you're picked as long as you're picked. Now, who picks you?
The
That's completely
quarterback will
different.
be Kenny Pickett unless he gets traded.
So, well, you know what, and that's where we're gonna go with it. And I think at the end of the day, once you're picked, you have an opportunity. Whether you're picked in the first round or the last round, first pick, last pick, and you need to make the most of your opportunity. And just because you're picked doesn't mean that you're guaranteed. And I think that's what we're seeing now. I didn't care for Dylan Gabriel, period. But, that's just my opinion. I watch a lot of college football. I didn't see it. Didn't see Shador either. But if you're having a good training camp and you can develop and mold yourself into what they are looking for, then, we'll see if it translates. And I think right now, the Cleveland has all their. You're right. It'll probably be Kenny Pickett to start. But I would not be surprised if Shador has a couple good preseason moments and they do start him. He's a talented kid. He's just not, I feel, a franchise starting quarterback where you build around him. That's just me. But will he win you a game in his career? Most likely. Is he better than Deshaun Watson at this point in his career? Well, he hasn't been around too many masseuses, so yes. So I think you can get away with it, and it doesn't hurt that you're playing the Bengals, who have not had a defense and who've openly let their quarterback get hit and had bad field position and give up everything. That could help. That could help, but I will say I do think Shador will start week 1. He may not start again the rest of the season, but I do think that he will start. And then we'll go from there. We'll see what happens. Yeah, he was a little disrespected, but hey, you know what? If you watch his games, the throws that weren't to Travis, not the best. So it is what it is. Back to you, Nick.
All right. Since all of my games were taken, um, no. So I totally agree. The games you guys mentioned, I think, all have very big significance. Early on, and will be um, factors down the road. Um, I know you guys mentioned Baltimore and Buffalo. I feel like that's the biggest one of the bunch. I know we had a buddy of ours, Mondo, that wanted to talk about the Ravens. Well, here we go, right? It feels like that both of these teams, Buffalo and Baltimore, they both have to win this game. They played each other in the playoffs last year. Obviously, Buffalo got the upper hand on a Mark Andrews drop pass, but then they went into Arrowhead and lost. Josh Allen's the MVP from last year. I believe Lamar won it 2 years ago, right? So you've had the last two MVPs are on the same field. Week 1, Henry got an extension. Josh got the bag. It doesn't get much bigger than that on prime time. Can't wait to see it. And also Cincinnati and Cleveland. I'm going to state my opinion here since we all said a bunch of quarterbacks. Joe Flacco will start for the Browns week 1. Just spoiler alert. But that's not what I want to watch, because I believe this year's MVP will be on the field in that game, and that is Joe Burrow. A lot of talk about the Bengals with Chase and T. Higgins and Hendrickson, this and that, and the third. It's Joe Burrow's time to reclaim the throne as the best quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion, because I believe he is the best passer of the football in the NFL. He's got arguably the best wide receiver in the game. He's got the best number 2 in the game. It's time to return back to, being a contender. And if they don't, you got some serious problems that need to be addressed. And obviously the Birds, because it's the Birds, baby. Birds in Dallas. Opening game to start. I'm going to be watching that game and be screaming my head off because anyone but Dallas, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
that Emperor Palpatine, Jerry Jones, the Death Star, Darth Vader, all that other crap. There's a reason why Luke came out on top. Jalen Hurts is Luke Skywalker. All right. Dallas is going down week 1. We're going to put him in the dirt. Micah Parsons is going in the dirt. All right. And I believe we're wearing Kelly Green. We cannot lose when we wear Kelly Green. All right. So go Birds. I want to see Joe Burrow. I'm picking Joe Burrow to be the MVP. I might put a futures bet on it, but what do I know? And I agree. Baltimore, Buffalo, must win game for both teams, will be a deciding factor come the end of the season with seeding. And if you're Baltimore, you gave Derrick Henry an extension. You brought in DeAndre Hopkins. A lot of question marks if Lamar Jackson can get the job done. Same with Buffalo. Josh Allen, can you actually get to the big dance? Can you win the big game? We're going to get a little taste of that right away.
I think the Ravens are putting a 2-year flyer on that team because they signed Derek. He's over 30 years old, probably not going to be in the league much longer. I mean, he still shows that he's got a lot left in the tank, but just off of running back average, you wouldn't think that he's going to last much longer. But I think that they're taking a 2-year flyer on him, saying that we got two years before we got to reevaluate the way that this team's going before um, just to win a Super Bowl. I mean, you got to, if there's anybody that's going to lead you there, we saw Saquon do it with the Eagles. The Ravens are built in a similar facet. So if there's anybody that's going to lead you there in a run first offense, it's going to be Derek. So they took a 2-year flyer on him, and we'll see over the next 2 years what happens. But if you got an MVP, multiple time MVP on your team, I mean, you should be in good hands, but it just doesn't seem like the postseason or the cold weather, whichever one it is, he's going to need home field advantage the whole way through. I mean, they've had it multiple times and still choked, but you know, maybe they need to play against Miami in the championship game. Who knows? But that's a topic for later in the season.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. By the way, Nick, I think Jalen Hurts is more Chewbacca, but we'll go down that road somewhere else. I do think that the Ravens are an interesting team. They every year it seems like they revamp a little different to make the roster better than it was before. And I don't know so much if the Ravens don't find ways to lose games. We're looking at some games and we're saying, okay, Lamar Jackson's the best player. How does this team not win the Super Bowl this year? And then they just find a way to let us all down. And I would love to talk to Mondo about this, which I will. I'll be messaging him after this for a conversation. But I'm curious that Matt said 2-year window. What do you do if you do not win the next 2 years? Because the AFC has been the Kansas City Chiefs Invitational. So if you don't win the next 2 years, do you blow up your roster? Rhetorical. Actually, no, that's not rhetorical. What do
I
you
would
think you do if
I
you
would
don't win?
I would think you would
Or
get
do you
rid
get rid of
of
the coach and try somebody else with the same roster?
no.
I
I
think
think I think
Harbaugh's a great coach.
Yeah, I think Harbaugh's a perennial. Like if you're getting deep in the playoffs every year, like GMs and owners know that it's not easy to get that far. You're not going to get rid of an Andy Reid. Andy Reid's had the success. John Harbaugh has won a Super Bowl before, but he's also been at the forefront of the playoffs every year since. So he might have missed one or two due to playoffs due to injuries, but he's always right there in the mix. He knows how to get that defense riled up. They made adjustments last season where they were able to. They had one of the high, like the 3 weeks in a row. It's just like high scoring, high scoring, high scoring on their defense. He
Yeah.
bumped Kyle Hamilton into a different part of the safety formation, where instead of him being in like a low linebacker spot, they put him over the top and let him play like cover two sink and or invert cover two, and they turned their whole season around. They ended up being like one of the lowest scoring defenses over the last 8 weeks of the season. So he knows how to adjust. It's about the team executing in the playoffs, and whether it's getting rid of Mark Andrews and staying with Lively. I always forget. Lively's on the Mavericks, so it's Likely. Um, anyway, going with him, you might at some point Lamar's going to have to use his arm, and you can only get you can have as many receivers as you want. As if he's not going to throw it to him consistently, they're not going to have any chemistry with them. So he's got to get with them with his receivers in the offseason and just get it down somehow because he can throw the football. He's shown that he can throw the football, but when it matters most, and if he's running the whole game, he's going to be tired. He's not going to be able to put as much into the throw. So we'll see what kind. It really does rest on Lamar's shoulders. So in a couple years, if they're still not winning, it might be a time to readdress that situation.
Well, and that's my question on that, is that where do you start? Do you look to move Lamar? Do you just say, okay, we need maybe restructure the team a little differently, not be so run centric? Even though that's the way he's succeeded, is with a run centric team. And actually, just to throw it out there, his arm is pretty good. His accuracy could be better, but
Yeah.
he throws to receivers where I will say DeAndre Hopkins is getting up in age, but you don't have to be 100% accurate to throw to DeAndre Hopkins. He's a good receiver. He's a good receiver. Now that he's not a primary receiver, it can be a little off. He'll go up and get it. Odell Beckham was the same way, so he doesn't have to be dotting the receivers, and I hope they are aware of that. But my comment is, in 2 years, let's say, how do you change this offense, or change the team to be competitive, or do you just throw in the towel because you've tried and just lost year after year after year after year after year?
Well, if Lamar is losing in the same fashion that he's been losing, like last year or against the Chiefs game, he vastly overthrew a couple receivers that could have easily clutched that game. If
Yeah,
he's still making the same mistakes that he's been making, I would say get rid of Lamar. If he's showing improvement and you want to still have chances, you're going to have to finagle the cap a little bit to where you can get rid of a Mark Andrews and you can move on to like a Lively or a Likely. Isaiah, likely. And then, just keep doing these one-off receiver deals. If he's going to be able to perform, then you shouldn't break it up. But if he's going to continue to make the same and have the same questions every year, whether he can throw the football or not accurately in crunch time, uh, then yeah, I think that's when you make that determination. Because last year, I think he put the ball on the money or pretty damn near close, and Mark Andrews dropped the ball. That's sort of what ended their
yeah.
season last year. So it wasn't necessarily Lamar's fault, even though in the first half he didn't play a spectacular game, but
Thank you,
he
because I was going to
overcame
bring
it.
that up too.
Yeah, he didn't play a spectacular game by any means, but in crunch time he actually delivered, but it was ultimately um, not shown because of a drop pass. But his full game performance can be another topic.
And that's a point I was going to bring up, because I was going to say, here's all the Baltimore fans. Well, Mark Andrews drops the ball. He doesn't drop it. We're here. You are correct. However, let's go back and revisit the game, because Nick, to bring you in on the conversation too, I think the three of us watched that game together. Lamar did not play well in the first half. I think he was it 2 fumbles and a pick, or something like that. He had 3 turnovers at some point. We were questioning what the hell's going on, and then he found a way in the second half, and all we remember is the Mark Andrews drop. But he did not play well to start that game, and we had a lot of questions going into the second half as to what the hell was going to happen. So I think asking the question now is, if you don't get it done this year, will you ever really be able to get it done? Now, Matt said 2 years, which I think that's a good number too, but I question, which is why I'm going to text Mondo and take it from a Baltimore Raven fan with how he's looking at it. But it'd be very interesting to me. Nick, what do you think?
So for perspective, Baltimore lost 27-25 in the divisional round to Buffalo. Lamar went 18 of 25 for 254, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, and had 1 lost fumble. I believe both those turnovers occurred in the first half, like you mentioned. And also, Josh Allen didn't play that well either. I think it was if Lamar hadn't played better in the first half, you could argue, those 2 turnovers, if they didn't happen, they would have won the game. I don't know if the turnovers were the reason they lost. I don't think they happened in the important parts of the game. I do agree, though, with this 2-year window. If Baltimore doesn't get to at least the AFC Championship this year, you got to kind of look. Either one of 2 things is going to happen. You're going to look at some type of offensive overhaul. Whether it's Lamar, receivers, line, or maybe you see the offensive coordinator get replaced. The thing with the Ravens, and I feel like this has been kind of apparent the last few years that they've had Lamar Jackson. They run a very it almost feels like I'm watching a college offense when I watch the Ravens offense play. They run a lot of the read options. And granted, Lamar Jackson's he is the best mobile quarterback in the NFL. But that does not win in the NFL. You have to be able to throw. You have to play from the pocket. You have to win from the pocket. And for the most part, Lamar Jackson has not proved that he can win from the pocket when it matters. Even that drop pass, they had to roll him out of the pocket. They had to move him to get him that throw. Not to say that he can't throw the ball, because he can. Even back at Louisville, every year he improved as a passer. Ever since he's come to the league, he has improved as a passer. But I think the system they run, especially now when they got Derrick Henry, it was run, read option, then maybe throw an out route. It just doesn't work. I don't think they have the weapons on the outside. You have an aging DeAndre Hopkins. Okay, yes, you have Rashad Bateman, who had an improved year. Isaiah Likely is a nice young tight end piece. Confirmed it is likely, not lively. It'll likely be likely. No. But outside of that, there's no dynamic wide receiver that'll open up this offense even further. And a lot of that has to do with play calling and scheme. So I think before you see roster overhaul, you'll see a new offensive coordinator come in that'll try to run almost more like what you see with Washington, where they run a lot of run and gun, tempo, speed up the game, make the decisions faster. And that caters to Jaden Daniels' strengths. Whereas Lamar, the offensive scheme doesn't necessarily play to all of his strengths. Lamar wants to go fast, I feel like. That's his play style. So they need to add some tempo, and they need that go-getter wide receiver. Because here's the thing, all the best teams have them. They have that go-getter player. Philly's got him. Buffalo has Dalton Kincaid and James Cook, who are go-getters as well. They have Derrick Henry, but outside of, I feel like it's more scheme for them. And I wouldn't be shocked if they draft a wide receiver first round next year. They're going to try to get
there's some good ones coming out.
Yeah. So I think that's the direction they go. And then second year, if it still doesn't work, then you see some changes to that roster. That's my take.
You see, I would say the way their offense is built, I don't think they need that receiver. I think they need more to make the attempts. A dynamic receiver is always great, but I think they just need to make the attempt. Because the receivers they have aren't scrubs, but I don't think they throw to them enough, and I think they rely too much on Henry's legs and Lamar's legs. And don't get me wrong, that's a very dynamic duo. And the way that their offensive line is built and the way they use their tight ends, very run-centric. I think you're right. I think the new offensive coordinator could change a lot of problems, could solve a lot of those issues. But Lamar does have to throw the ball more. You have to make the attempts to your receivers, even if they don't catch it. Even if you just can't throw 25 times a game. I feel he needs to throw a little more.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe like 10 more attempts a game because
yeah, he
they're
should be
waiting
up in
until
the.
everyone's crashing in the box, and then they're gonna try to get one-on-ones, which you can't always just win on one-on-ones. You have to be able to beat zone, man, anytime.
Yeah, and the worst thing for them is when people feel like, okay, you know what, we don't have to put the pressure on you. We feel we can stop your run with a few guys, which some teams proved they could, and then they just make Lamar throw it. It's like, well, we stopped the run, do you? Or Lamar QB sneak the whole game, So I think he's got to look to throw more, and I do think a new coordinator will help that. But again, that's the 2-year window.
I agree. And I'll tell you what, we're going to find out exactly how this is going to play out because they're the first Sunday night game of the season. So the whole world's going to be watching. So with that in mind, actually, before we segue into our next topic, live update here. Second period just ended. The Florida Panthers are up 3-0 now. So there goes my futures bet. Anywho.
Now
we're gonna
that's
get
a
into
score I like.
I don't like
the
this right now.
rematch then. So we're getting the rematch between Florida and Edmonton.
Hopefully, right now the one thing I got going for me is Edmonton because Toronto choked again. So good old Maple Leafs. Anywho, we're gonna transition now into our next topic of discussion here. We got to show the ladies some love too. Ladies need to be loved too. Am I right, fellas? Now, we're going to get into some WNBA action here. The season kicked off this week. We had a few games come through. The one game that caught a lot of people's attention were the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky. It was a blowout. So the game itself, the score wasn't really the big deal. What a lot of people were talking about was there was a foul committed by Caitlin Clark on her arch nemesis, Angel Reese. So I want to try to open up because a lot of people talk about this Caitlin Clark effect on the WNBA, women's basketball, and women's sports in general. I'm going to start with you, Matt. Do you think the Caitlin Clark effect is overblown? Is it warranted? Is she that damn good? Or are we just blowing smoke?
We're talking about
What's
the
the
foul
deal?
when Angel Reese got pushed over, right?
Yes, correct. I'm referring to that.
I think the
What-
WNBA is vastly more physical than the NBA. So you're going to see fouls like that often. It just gets blown up like that because it's Caitlin Clark. So that being said, those fouls happen on a nightly basis in the WNBA. But being that it's a matchup that we've been watching for years already with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, everyone's talking about it. It was just a hard foul. There was no malintent. There was no other than Angel Reese getting up and trying to fight Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark just put her hands up and walked away. It was just basketball. That's all it was and all it should be. That's as simple as my opinion can get.
Yeah, Cam. What did you think of the? I think they called it a flagrant foul on Angel Reese. That was committed by Caitlin Clark. What did you think of that play? And what do you think about this whole narrative about her basically being the messiah of women's basketball?
Well, I understand the narrative. I think this was a player who did a lot of good things in college, had a lot of expectations on her when she came into the league. A lot of vets didn't like it, but you know what? She showed up, she showed out, and she played well. Did she play great? No, because there were still things that she was adjusting to. But I think she's the same kind of player who went home, worked out, is trying to figure it out. And that's what we're going to see this year. I don't want to say a revenge tour because I think that the Indiana Fever did a great job building their team around her to where they went from just making the playoffs to where they could be a top 3 team this year, based off of the moves they've made. Some, if you don't watch the league, know the name DeWanna Bonner. She will have several key games this year. She's put up 30, 40 points multiple times for the Connecticut Sun and Phoenix Mercury. And she's a very good defensive player. And she's 6'4", plays like a guard. So they built their team great. I think she's figuring it out this year. I do think that there's a lot of hype around her, but she's earned it. She's worked it. She's got it. And she's bringing more eyes to the league because people are tuning in to see who this girl is. Now, do I think it's justified to an extent? No. You know, there are a lot of good players in the league that if people wanted to, they could have taken the time and searched it out. So I guess the question would be, is all publicity good publicity? You know, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark. There's a quote by Robert Griffin. I was trying to find it, what he posted on Twitter. Angel Reese has been very... What?
Is that your cousin?
No, that's not my cousin. I wish it was. I wouldn't be living here. But no, actually, it's funny. My dad's name is Robert, and that is Robert Griffin III. And my dad, for those of you who don't know, none of you know, he is a junior. So technically, it could have been my brother, but it's not. But it's funny because Angel Reese has always said the right things, and you know, she's been jealous. Yes, we all seen it, but she's always been very complimentary of Caitlin Clark. Like, it's me, you know, Caitlin's good, but you know, I'm good too. And Robert Griffin came out and said, look, girl, just come out and say you don't like her. We can see it. You know, just embrace being the villain. And I think what we're finally getting, we've had it, but we're finally getting it for a new age, is we're getting the villain and the person everybody loves. Like Nick referenced Star Wars before. We're getting the Jedis and we're getting the evil empire. And I didn't think it was a flagrant foul, to be honest with you. I love the jawing back and forth. I always love confrontation like that. I thought it was a basic foul. You know, Angel Reese, let's be honest, she doesn't make a lot of shots, so it was a great foul. Gets a lot of rebounds, but doesn't make a lot of shots. So I think it was blown out of proportion. I saw the whatchamacallit afterwards, the press conferences afterwards. I love that Caitlin Clark came out and said, like, hey, I don't know why they called it. It wasn't foul. It should have not, but whatever. And then Angel Reese jawed back. I love it. But that is what I'm tuning in for. I'm tuning in for the controversy and the storylines. But in terms of Caitlin Clark effect, I mean, it's a sellout everywhere her team goes. So, I mean, there is some sort of an effect. But do I think it's as big as we make it? Not really. I mean, it is what it is.
Angel Reese, bang! We've all seen those.
Yeah. You know, and I will say this much too, because I pulled up the box score looking at it. You know, I'm trying not to be mean about it, but Angel Reese, you were 5 of 14, and you only took 2 threes, and you made 1. So you were 4 of 12 from the floor. I can't. I'm not saying I can't respect it. You're a professional player. You do you. You make your money. You're on the court. You got 17 rebounds. Phenomenal. But you got to find a way to convert some points.
I'm seeing a lot of Kwame Brown in her.
No, because Kwame Brown couldn't get the rebounds. Angel Reese is getting the rebounds. She's just not getting the points. I mean, yeah, 10, 12 points are fine, but you're taking 14 shots. You should have more than 10 points, 12 points.
Well, my point is that she doesn't really have a post move that she's able to do consistently, that she's able to, you know, go up after she gets the rebound and bring it in. She just throws it up. Like, it just seems like it's just like a cry for help every time she throws the basketball up. It's like, if you can't make the shot, just pass it out. There's no point of just passing it to yourself off the backboard. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna see
And I
like
would have,
six of her rebounds are her passing the shit to herself.
well, to be honest with you, I have no problem with her throwing it up to herself to get a bucket. However, let me clarify that when I say it. If you do it and you can score within the basket within 2 attempts, then I have no issue with, oh, you took a bad shot, get a better position on your second rebound, go back up and make it. What we're seeing with her is we're seeing throw it up, miss again, throw it up, miss again, throw it up, miss again. So you got 4 rebounds on 4 shot, 0 for 4 shot attempts. That's too many. It should be 1 or 2 at max. We see NBA players do it all the time. They take a shot, get the rebound, get better position, and then make the layup. That's the part I feel we're missing from Angel Reese. But if you're going to take 14 shots in a game and you have 7 offensive rebounds, you should have more than 12 points. That is where I'm coming from on her. I think she's got a lot of potential because she has opportunity to do it. And in year 2, we expect her to make that leap like all players do. The best thing about rookies is they become non-rookies after their first year, experienced players. So I'm hoping the curve is there. I just don't see it after game 1. But maybe a rivalry game, the first game of the season, isn't what you want to see when we have so many question marks with her. But in terms of the effect, I think we tune in for her storylines, but people tune in to see Caitlin Clark, as well as other players now who have come up into the league, a la Paige Beckers, a la Haley Van Lith, Cameron Brink when she comes back, Nafisa Collier, Brianna Stewart. The list will go on. But I think Caitlin has opened the eyes to the average person who may not have watched. And I think the players who are coming in are now drawing their fans in to watch also. And we're just seeing everything now.
So yeah, we're gonna go 3 for 3 here. I did not think it was a flagrant foul either. I just thought it was a hard common foul. She was going for the ball. It is what it is. I love the narratives as well, right? Because sometimes in sports, it's not about winning or losing; it's about the story, and it's about the narrative. And I think this, quote unquote rivalry is good for business. It's good for views. It's good for ratings. And I'm going to throw a little nugget of stats here for you guys. A few weeks ago, we had the WNBA draft. At its peak this year, there was about 1.4 million viewers. It is the second most watched draft they've ever had. And it was behind last year's, which was the Caitlin Clark sweepstakes. That did double that number. So yeah, you're right. She brings views. She's selling out arenas. She's the megastar right now. And if the WNBA is smart, they will ride that gravy train till it falls off the tracks. But like you said, she's earned that privilege. Last year as a rookie, she led the league in assists per game and 3-pointers made per game, which is where the modern basketball game is going, right? A lot of 3-point shooting, the guards that can shoot and pass and facilitate. She's currently, I believe, second betting favorite to win the MVP this year. So there is a huge investment in the Caitlin Clark brand. But now that's not to say that they should neglect these other players, because Angel Reese should embrace being the villain, and she should also work on her mid-range jumper. But besides the slight, she has all the potential in the world to be a superstar in her own right. She's young, she's physical, and she should, like you said, Cam, she should embrace being the villain. Come out and don't say I don't like her. You should say I hate that bitch. To be honest with you, you need to, you got to go viral, get the views, get the attention on the game. I think it'll be great for them because there's even more talent that's going to keep piling in. We just saw Paige Beckers come in. Guess what? Juju's coming next year too, and Juju's going to have.
No, Juju will probably be the year after.
She's not going to come out in 26.
Well, she's coming off an
Or
ACL tear. So I don't know if she's.
That's true.
I don't know. True. I think that'll be her personal decision. If she does go, I think she can. I think, but I don't know if she's going to go straight to the W off of an ACL tear.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Because it's not a. I mean, she'll have a whole year to get better. She'll be ready by summertime anyway. But I don't know if you want that competition right away off of an ACL tear where you haven't played basketball in a year.
I don't know who said 2026. She's going to come out in 2027. I mean, who said that? Like, are you kidding?
Well,
I mean, oh my God,
In your defense, you said it before she tore the ACL, so I'm here
I
for
did.
it.
I did. But in
You
any
know, real
case,
fun fact: I went back and just looked at the last 10 years of number one picks of the W, and it's been a few years since we've had a superstar get drafted at that position. And the last one that we had, arguably, was Asia Wilson in 2018, where you have that iconic player step into the league and just do great things. I mean, if I know the players because I watch, but if you don't watch, you probably couldn't tell me outside of Sabrina Ionescu who the other ones were. And that's not you, that's the average fan watching. So I think it's great. We're seeing another iconic player develop, and there should probably be a few more coming in the next few years. So it's that time. It's that changing of the guards. And I think the WNBA, like you said, needs to build on that. And if that means we need to see more of a rivalry between good and bad, if you want to call it that, black and white, good and bad, Jedi, Sith, whatever, Hobbit and Mordor people, then let's see it. But they, like you said, they need to build on what they have. And right now they have a very good player who draws a lot of views per game. I think they made it so Indiana has the most televised games this year, with expectation of Dallas versus Indiana being one of the most watched games this year, which would be Paige versus Caitlin. Um, I think the expectation is that's going to be probably the most watched game this year so far. That or the when she comes to Madison Square. Oh nope, Liberty don't play there anymore. Comes to Brooklyn to play the defending champs. So I think they're going in the right direction. Who knows? A lot of storylines.
Matt, any final thoughts?
No, I agree. Um, I just didn't think it was a foul. I think everything's going in the right direction, like we've all said numerous times, and it shouldn't be as big of a talking point as it is. But the fact that they're getting coverage and eyes are going on it, I think that's beneficial and warranted.
Absolutely, man. I agree. I think they're going in the right direction. So it's going to be good to see this league, grow and expand with a plethora of talent. But I think we will leave that there. We got one more topic for you guys tonight before we get into some other things, other segments of the show here. Um, Over the last few years, we've had this little, not we, but in general, there's been a debate in sports between turf fields and grass. Which ones are better? Which ones are safer? Um, Notably in the NFL, but in other sports in general. Matt, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. I know you have strong feelings towards this. Should major sports leagues transition from turf to grass? Yes or no? And, why?
Yes. Um, However, it's got to be maintained grass. It can't just be a crap grass field that they throw in. Um, I'm gonna start from watching. We've watched in the Super Bowl, for that matter, Odell Beckham tear his ACL on like a post route. The guy just drops out, non-contact. We've seen Le'Veon Bell tear um, an ACL on non-contact. He's also tore the same one on contact. So uh, that was more of a dirty player incident. But we've seen player after player after player tear Achilles. Um, Aaron Rodgers' injury 2 years ago now didn't look like it should have happened like that if it was on grass. It just looked like it got caught. I obviously we can't just go out and start testing people's Achilles on these things, but from my own personal experience in playing on both fields regularly, I am less sore after playing on grass than I am on turf. I feel like a train hit me after I play on turf. My Achilles feel like they're tight. My hamstrings feel tight. After grass, we played just this morning on grass. I played 2 games today, and I don't feel an ounce of pain. maybe I'm a little bit more well conditioned, but even with all the rigorous training that these professional athletes are doing, we see non-contact injuries happen more often on turf than we do on grass. I know Cam's going to say otherwise, but personally, I haven't seen it. And it, I people on our team like Billy and myself have been hurt on turf more often than grass, doing nothing, like just making simple cuts. And I guess my thought process behind that is that it might be a cleat issue. And I'm starting to lean more towards this now, but it might be a cleat issue more than the field issue. But if you're wearing thicker stud cleats on turf field, it might have a higher probability of getting caught. But again, I still think it's more of like I've run in turfs, I've run in several different kinds of cleats, and I don't know if I've noticed a significant difference in between those, but I'm going to keep an eye out for it because I do have a pair of turfs and cleats that I'll be testing regularly. So we'll see. Go ahead, Cam.
Yeah, it's funny. We all grow up playing, for the most part, on grass, I would say. And then to shift to turf when you start playing sports, um, not I would say professionally, but not professionally, just at the amateur level, sometimes middle school, high school, AAU, whatever it is, you shift to turf for the most part. I personally have no dog in this fight either way. I think turf, in a way, makes it an even playing field to an extent. If everybody's got the same turf, then to an extent, then it makes it a little more even. I don't like that you can go from turf to grass, turf to grass. So I would be in favor of going all or nothing with the league. But I personally think, in general, an ACL and Achilles, they're non-contact injuries. It's basically how you plant your foot, um, for the most part, because you're like Matt said, unless it's a dirty play, you're really not going to tear your ACL from getting hit. If anything, unless you get hit in the knee, if I get hit up top, I'm not going to tear my ACL unless my legs are just don't move. Um, Achilles, that's just a step the wrong way and it snaps. Nobody knows why these two injuries happen the way they do. That's why they're called non-contact. But I personally like turf. I feel it makes it an even playing field for everybody. When it comes to grass can be grown differently. It comes in differently. It's different when it rains in different spots. For the most part, turf is even throughout. Again, I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't play professionally. I play pickup, rec, and I grew up on grass. But if we're trying to make all things equal, then if you can make it all equal with grass, then I would be okay with it. But until then, I think turf is fine. Again, I don't have it. I don't play that way. So athletes saying they want the other is fine with me. I do think Matt has a good point. I do think it's probably technology based too. Like technology is coming up. It's 2025 now. Football's been around a long time. From cleat usage to helmet usage. Maybe we should be looking at a different kind of cleat for turf that might take some of these injuries away. But again, the injuries aren't happening game after game, year after year, day after day. They happen, unfortunately, at the most inopportune times, to the wrong players, as Matt brought up. But, they are happening. Just thankfully, not at the rate where we have to make a decision tomorrow. I think we have time to develop some sort of technology for turf that might bring that number down further than where it is. And I think that would be the way to go first before we removed all these fields and just put in grass. Um, that is a huge expense for some of these teams and some of these places. One that I think, whereas where technology is going, we do not need at this point. But, there are teams and sports overseas that do it, and they have a lot of success growing their own grass and keeping it maintained. But a
Okay.
turf field's probably too. What?
No, I have a quick retort, unless you want to finish a point.
No, I'll go first.
Um, I think from a business perspective, if the players want to play on grass, and the majority probably do from what we've heard recently, then you are investing in your players. Therefore, you should make the investment to keep them healthy if they're saying that turf fields create injuries and they get injured less on grass. However, I like the point that you brought up that it's different grass in different areas. Like you can't grow the same grass in the Northeast that you can grow in Miami or Arizona. That being said, or for the matter of fact, the teams that play in the domes that don't open. So
Yeah.
yes, it's difficult, but so many teams. I think it's more than half the teams now that are playing on turf. But if you're making the investment in the player and you're paying them $100 million contracts, and they're saying, "I feel like I'm going to get hurt on a turf field," or all my injuries have happened on turf fields and they're non-contact, maybe there should be a consideration in advancing the technology or going to grass temporarily. Um, and also, there's a list of things that could happen on a turf field that you're not going to see on a well-maintained grass field, and that's turf burn. You're not going to get that unless the grass is dry, like super dry. You're not going to get burnt on that. Turf burn sucks. You can get staph infections from it. Could potentially bring worse issues. Nobody likes that, whether you're a professional athlete or a kid. It sucks. The only thing that I would push for turf fields is events that are held at the stadium, because we all know that these professional stadiums aren't um, just used for professional football. Like MetLife is used for concerts. They're used for, I mean, I'm sure we've had flag tournaments there. It's used for all different kinds of things, and it's easier to do that on turf and be able to create revenue with bringing stages and this that onto turf rather than grass with sinking and rain issues and whatnot. So I get that part of the business, but if you're just strictly talking sports, I'm more comfortable on grass, and I feel like the players are leaning that way too.
Well, and I think that's probably the age-old question in general with sports, and I'm glad you brought that up. You said the players. How often when we look at sports, whether it's basketball, baseball, football especially, is it players versus owners? You know, players look at it from a health, safety standpoint for their career, and we have business owners who look at it as a business and an investment. And whereas you could say, well, we're investing in the team, we should have grass, we all can say that, but are they going to spend the money to do it? And I think that's why I would say I would exhaust all possibilities first. And I think you brought up a good point before that I'll reiterate. Let's look at the cleats on these turfs. Yes, there's going to be injuries that happen on every single field, no matter what. We can go straight grass. The moment it gets rainy, what are we going to do? It's going to be straight mud. Which personally to me, if football's an outdoor sport, I would love to see it. But again, New England, we'll take for example, is a open stadium. To be able to grow grass, to have grass fields in January, or even Buffalo, to that matter, the new stadium they're building, consistent grass fields in January and early, well, not February, but December, January, it's an issue because they're open fields and we do get snow. For those of you who are in Florida, that's the white stuff that comes from the sky, or Texas. It's not 100% doable to the point where you're going to have the same grass there you're going to have in Arizona, or you're going to have quality grass there that you're going to have in Arizona without a price. So I think we need to look at alternatives for technology, maybe cleats. You know, let's look at our cleats. Is there a way we can finagle a design so that Achilles pop a lot less, or maybe your foot doesn't bend as much, or it gives that way your ACL doesn't pop. You know, I think there are ways we can do it, and once we've exhausted all those, then I think you can go to the owners and say, look, we've done everything. It's been so many years. We need to go grass. I just think it's when you're an owner, you're going to look at it as a business decision. And while you want to invest in your players, call a spade a spade. You're going to own the team for 20, 30 years. You may only have that player for 10.
But if you have these
So
contracts that are going for $265 million,
yeah, but if you look at the money they're bringing in, I
there's no,
agree they're
yeah,
making money,
yeah.
but they're still they're still making a lot more than that. So it's a great discussion. I wish somebody on ESPN and NFL Live they'd do a whole segment on it because I would love to watch it and see what their point of view is and see obviously players and reporters and stuff like that we know what their points of view but to see them get into the analytics and technology of it I think would be great, you know.
A survey by the NFLPA found that 92% of players prefer grass over turf.
Also with that though, we prefer what we know. Again, like I said, we all grew up playing on grass. It's not until you get to like certain levels that it's turf. And I think it's obviously cheaper to maintain turf, so a lot of people have it. In an ideal world, every sport should be on grass because that's what we played on, or blacktop. I guess if you live in the city, you play sports on the blacktop. Like I remember I played baseball in the streets, but I think that's what we're comfortable with. That's what we know. You know, I, again, I'm not agreeing with the players. I think they grass would be great, but when it comes to an owner standpoint, I don't think that's an investment they want to make right now. And unfortunately, they sign the checks and have a huge say.
I'm gonna go ahead and hop in real quick. I got like 2 points that I will, I guess, get into. Um, First thing being, me personally, I prefer to play on grass as well. Just feels better on my toesies. Um, I'm just kidding. I just feel like overall it's a safer surface to play on. Also, like when it gets to be summertime, that turf is hot, man. I,
It really does.
it
It
just
burns through the cleats.
yeah, it does, man. It just, but that's my first point. But second thing, well, actually, not really the first point, but I'm gonna post a link once this video is posted to the YouTube channel. I'll post it as a comment. There's actually a really great article from the National Center for Health Research um, that looked into injuries related to turf versus grass, and this is dating back to like 2007. They've been conducting studies and things like that. So this isn't something that's been like recent.
No, it's
You know,
not.
they've been looking into this for a very long time, and it goes into things about knee and ankle injuries, concussions, heat related illnesses, abrasions, all kinds of crazy stuff. So that will be in there for all you guys to take a look at, get some info. But Matt, you brought up a great point that the vast majority of the players want grass. And Cam, you also made a great point that the owners are writing the checks, and maybe it's a little cheaper to use turf. Over the next, few years or so, do we see a possibility where when they renegotiate the collective bargaining agreement, do we see something where they put in a we want grass type thing in the contract? Or do we say any new developments can be retractable domes but have to have grass or something like that? Do you think maybe that's where this ends up going, or do you guys see that as a possibility?
I don't want retractable domes, period. I think domes should be removed. It should be an all-weather sport. Cam brought that up that it's an outdoor sport. We don't need to have football indoors. There's no reason for punts to be hitting the Titantron on the top and whatnot. So there's no, it's just not good for the sport. It's an outdoor sport. It's an all-weather sport. Everything but lightning. We want to see the games where there's 3 feet of snow and they're trying to get through, or they clear it every now and then. But we like those games. It's entertaining to watch because it's different. Having to fight through adversity, it's different. Y- Who cares about watching a game? Anybody can play in a no weather surface. It's the most neutral way. Um, we want to see conflicting circumstances, wind. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I love seeing kickers being able to adjust in the wind, on the fly, in the weather. They can't even see. We saw a game last year in it was a Pittsburgh versus Browns game. I think it was in Cleveland. It was just snowing like crazy. The camera angle, I don't even know how they saw it in person, but on camera, we could not see the ball go through the uprights. We had to wait for the referee signal. I mean, there's just anticipation, there's excitement. It's nice to see how teams adjust their play style for conflicting factors like weather. So I think removing the dome altogether is a better idea.
Yeah, I'm an all-weather sport kind of person. I think football, baseball to an extent, but football is one of the only sports done outside on the major league level where the weather can enhance the performances the players do. I think Matt brought up a point. If it's a kicker and it's really windy, that just adds to the excitement. Well, is he going to make this game-winning field goal from 55 yards out? If it's really cold, hey, our receivers' hands, are they able to catch the ball when it's brick out and they've been sitting for 5 minutes on the sideline? On a hot day, are they hydrated? Can they do the turnaround time? The player, it just enhances our respect and our feeling towards these players. So I'm all about open domes. Again, we all grew up playing it. If it rained, we still played it. If it snowed, we still played it. I don't think you need a level playing field when it comes to having a dome. Yes, it's nice if you're in the middle of the city and you want to do it for aesthetic purposes. Okay, fine. But you, like Matt said, your kick shouldn't be hitting the jumbotron. Like that's unacceptable. I get it. You want everybody to have a good view, but that's no. That shouldn't be out of bounds because it shouldn't be there. In terms of negotiating to get something in the collective bargaining agreement, I think that's something they will and try to do every year, and it gets shot down. Do I think there'll be a hard stop because of it? No, I don't think football's long enough of a season where you're going to negotiate and do a stop and play to get the grass turf scenario settled. I think the only way you see that is if you see all a good chunk of elite players go down in the same season and be out for the season, and then we'll see it. And by that, I mean the equivalent of, let's say, Tom Brady going down the same season. TJ Watt goes down the same season. Lamar goes down. I think you would need to see a group of players go down at the same time with the same injury on the same surface to kind of, I don't want to say ruin the season, but to kind of derail our expectations. And then I think we'll see something like that happen where, okay, we just lost a lot of our headline players. We need to address this right now so we don't lose that later on down the road. I think that's what it would take to get it done right away. But until then, it's not something I see for a few years to come. Again, as technology improves, it may happen sooner if we can find a way to make it happen in some of these colder cities year round. But until then, I don't see it happening. And another thing, I will go back to the turf argument. I know Matt said, you guys were saying the turf fields get warm. That is true. The turf does get pretty hot. I know there's a temperature difference between the turf field and the seats up. It's about sometimes 10 degrees difference. But I will say this, in the wintertime, I know there are some stadiums that can heat up the turf and you don't have the ice or the snow on it. So or it's not as freezing down there. So it does go both ways to an extent. Just want to throw the other side of that out there also. But I don't see this being anything in the collective bargaining agreement this time around. Maybe 2-3 collective bargaining agreements down the road, but right now, sadly, no.
Yeah, man. I mean, I unfortunately agree as well. I just wanted to pose the question. I think it'd be a interesting topic of discussion. I don't see it happening either right away. Um, like you said, unless a significant amount of star players get similar injuries on similar surfaces, then I think that would probably tilt it. But we'll see what happens. Um, Matt, any final thoughts?
No. I think I justified myself here.
Okay, great. All right. So with that, then, that's going to conclude our main topics for this evening. We're going to transition to everybody's favorite segments of the show, where we each get our own little spotlight to shine. We're going to start with Baywoods bets. Baywood mentioned he's 7 for 7 on NHL this postseason, on top of all the other bets that he hits, because he just makes that money, baby. So, Mr. Baywood, anything that is catching your eye right now this upcoming week or a couple days, what do you got for us? Help us make some money, man.
I'm going to make you proud here. I'm going to say Indiana's going to come off cold, and the Knicks are going to take game one. So it's the Knicks money line.
I love you, man. You know that? In a professional way. Just want to. But yeah, I like that one. I can't say no to that one. Anything else you got going on, or you just looking at that right now, Wednesday night?
Yeah, just right now I'm looking at it on Wednesday for Wednesday night. Still waiting, just a live update on the NHL. Uh, Actually, this just happened a second ago, but Toronto scored a goal, and then 54 seconds later, Florida scored again, and then just now Florida just scored again. So it's now 5-1. So I'll be eyeing up lines in this next round of the NHL playoffs, which you'll have to find out through the comment section. So, or our betting group.
In the meantime, sounds like Florida money line is going to be pretty good.
Right
You
now,
guys might want to
live.
take one. Yeah. Yeah, live right now, Florida. Yeah, for sure. It's a gimme. Give me like 2 cents. Yeah. All right, man. So that's it, right? Nothing else for now. Got to
Nothing else
tune
for
in.
now. Yeah, it's just been
Nothing else.
it's been a one pick a week type situation. It's been working out.
Perfect, man. All right. So Baywood's bets. You guys heard it first. Knicks money line Wednesday night. You're doing that on DraftKings right now. Is that correct?
And Fanatics, but there's only one group, so it's on DraftKings.
On DraftKings. So follow the busted coverage betting group. Right now, the Knicks are a minus 180. So before things change, you might want to get in on that. With that said, we're going to get into our next segment here where yours truly gets to take out his frustrations on certain things. We call it Nick's Rants because usually something makes me upset every week. So that's why we call it that. As you guys all know, we are up in Connecticut, which is basically the highway between New York City and Boston. However, we did have, we actually do have a pro sports team. We have the Connecticut Sun in the WNBA. We've had them for quite some time, and they've been pretty damn good, over the last 15, 20 years. News came out that they are looking into a valuation. They hired like an investment company or a bank or whatever to try to value the team for a possible sale and relocation of the team. Now, why this makes me upset and why this should probably make a lot of, us locals upset. As you guys probably know, we had an NHL team back in the day. We had the Hartford Whalers, who are now the Carolina Hurricanes, who are now in the Eastern Conference Finals. So they've been good for some time now. That used to be us. That used to be CT. We also were this close, inches away from getting the New England Patriots in the mid 90s, I believe. The state made a push to bring them here, and I believe it fell through at the last second. We almost had an NFL team here. Now we could potentially be losing probably the most prominent pro sports team that we have in the Connecticut Sun. in the WNBA. And it's just like, damn, you know, this is why we don't have nice things in Connecticut sports, aside from college. When it comes to the pro sports, man, like, why can't we just have one? Can't we just have one team? One really good pro sports team. That's all we ask for. We're not asking for, Philadelphia's got like 5, 7, whatever. Los Angeles has a gajillion. We're not even asking for that. We just want one team that we can cheer for that is good and competitive. And that
LA
has been the Connecticut Sun.
LA has 2 LA teams for the NBA. They can't just donate one
Exactly.
over here.
That, yeah, dude, we'll take the Clippers. Are you kidding me? I mean, well, they got that new dome, so that's not going to happen. But I digress. It's when they leave, we're going to be starving for a sports team. I know we got, some affiliate like hockey teams and some minor league baseball and stuff. It's just not the same as having, a major sports team. It's just I'm interested to see what they're going to sell for. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel like it's coming, and it's going to be a shame when they leave. So my rant is more sadness. We hate to see pro sports leave CT because it's happened to us once before.
Right as it was heating up, too.
Exactly. Yeah. Right as it was heating up, they swept it from under us, and now they're sweeping the sun away from us. And
Soon,
man,
soon UConn's
just
going to be in
damn.
Wisconsin.
Don't say that.
That's funny.
Dude, if we didn't have UConn at this point, I mean, what? We have to go to like a different state just to watch a team play. It's bad enough that we got to pay for tickets. Now we got to pay for gas, wear and tear on the car. It's $15 for a Bud Light. For those of you who don't know, Bud Light's not worth $15. What else do you want
Bud
from us?
Light, please sponsor and subscribe.
Well, yes, of course. Please subscribe and sponsor us. We will drink the Bud Light if you give it to us. Don't get us wrong. But damn, we don't want to be just a highway between New York and Boston. Like, we want a sports team. We have one. Let us keep it. Why do you need to have it? Why? We're already taxed out the ass as it is in Connecticut. This is just yet another tax. It's a sports tax. That's what it is. And it makes me upset. That's my rant. I'm sorry. I had to get that off my chest. All right. Took a deep breath. We got one more for you guys. Cam Griffin. Showtime,
Yes.
baby. It's your time now. Your time.
It's my time.
Cam's Jam of the Week. By the way, I think you have the best name because it rhymes. That's just my opinion.
It's like an old school '90s game, Cam Jam, NBA Jam, Cam Jam, or
Cam Jam.
that frisbee game, Cam Jam, Cam Jam.
Yes. Love that. Love it. Anyway, what is your jam and or jams, plural, of the week? Got a lot coming up, so
it's going to be jam. It's going to be jams, multiple. However, before we get started with that, one thing I want to add to you, to one thing you said about the Connecticut Sun. Connecticut Sun, for people who don't know, is our team based out of the Mohegan Sun Casino. So it is owned by the tribe, as we call it down here. It is one of the only teams in the WNBA which is not supplemented by an NBA ownership team. So unlike most of the WNBA teams, the Sun have not lost money on their team. So I think that's huge to say. This is one of the only franchises where they do not lose money. They actually make money on their team before Caitlin Clark came to Connecticut. So when she comes to Connecticut, that's more money in general they make. They are not supplemented by the NBA. They are not paying anybody back. The money they make is the money they make. And because they own their facilities, they don't obviously have to charge themselves. So just throw that out there, because I know a lot of people are going to think, oh, well, the NBA supplements. No. They do not supplement the Connecticut Sun. So this is truly a loss for us. It is not a hemorrhaging money situation. No, it would just be a sale for whatever their reasoning is. So just want to throw that out there.
I hope they sell to Foxwoods.
That would be amazing. My next one I want to say is, before I get to that, I want to shout out Tate Taylor. For those of you who don't know, I'm a huge track and field fan. This kid set a new high school record and ran a 9.92. That is crazy fast for those of you who don't know. It's hard to run 10 seconds. This kid at 17, I think, ran a 9.2. And Quincy Wilson, again, the 400-meter runner who's, 16 or 15, 16 or whatever, that went to the Olympics, national record holder right now, fastest time in the world right now. So follow track and field. It's all about to heat up next month for USATF finals. Just want to throw that little tidbit out there. All right, our jams of the week. Tuesday night, people. Tune in all night Tuesday. We have Caitlin Clark at 7 o'clock. And then we have the Miami Hurricanes, who I picked, not going to lie. I think at this point, playing Florida? It's blowing them out. Is that what I saw, Nick?
Yeah, Florida's up 5-1 with 4 minutes to go.
Yeah. So that's my game, because obviously I'm following the Hurricanes right now. It was my pick. I got to stick with it. But then the 8:30 game, get your popcorn, people. We have SGA versus the Ant-Man in OKC. And for those of you who don't know, Minnesota was down 20 points in OKC, came back and won. Not once, but twice. So that's going to kick off a very good series. To be honest with you, I don't see it going 7 games. I think it'll go less, because I think one of those two stars will insert their will, and I will say Ant-Man, but I'll make it a little more official later in the week for myself when I sit down and actually look at the rosters. But Tuesday night, everything on TV is going to be a jam of the week to watch, because every game is going to be good. We have our Eastern Conference Finals, Western Conference Finals. Well, Eastern Conference Finals and NBA are third Wednesday night, but yeah, sorry guys, I think Tuesday nights are going to be better. Indiana versus New York, great rivalry. I'm sure there'll be a lot of hatred going back and forth. I'm sure Reggie Miller will be in the house at the Garden when they play. Spike Lee too. They'll probably sit next to each other, so it'll be entertaining. But I think the series to watch will be out west in Minnesota versus OKC. So that Tuesday night is my gym of the week night. Just grab the popcorn starting at 7 o'clock, open up with Caitlin Clark, and then around 8 o'clock turn into hockey, and then do a split screen to get the Wolves versus the Thunder. And you'll have a great night. You may have to call out of work the next day, but you know what? Totally worth it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I will definitely have my my TiVo ready to record all that action, starting with Miss Caitlin Clark and some hockey, and the Ant-Man cometh. Ant-Man, Batman, Superman, Timberwolves in 5, baby.
Is that official?
Well, I picked the Timberwolves. I don't know if it'll be in 5, but I'm going to take the Timberwolves as well. So, Matt, you're going to be tuning in Tuesday, right? You got your TiVo ready?
Yep. Oh, YouTube TV.
You don't use TiVo anymore?
Never did, actually.
Nah, well, shout out to TiVo, man. Good time.
Nick, we'll tap room it that night, or you want to go somewhere else?
Hey, man, I'm down for whatever.
All right, bet.
All right, guys. With that in mind, tune in Tuesday night to those games because Cam said so. Take the Knicks money line because Matt said so. And please, for the love of God, do not sell the Connecticut Sun because Nick said so. All right. With that said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening, giving us, your time of day. We really do appreciate it. We do this for the love of the game. No pun intended. We love you guys. Make sure to like again, subscribe, follow us. We're on YouTube and Spotify. If you're bored at work, in between, from now until Tuesday night, give us a listen. We got 13 of these bad boys up now. So there's plenty of content for you to listen to, and leave comments as well. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you guys want to hear. We are men of the people. So we'll talk about whatever is going on in the sports world. With that said, we love you guys. Take care, and we're out.